Welcome to this edition of Simsbury School News. My name is Dominique Avery. After the long, hot summer break, the school system is ready for the new year. We're taping this on August 24th, exactly 1 week before the children come back to school on August 31st. To help us kick off the school year, my guests are Superintendent of Schools Matt Curtis, and after a while, we'll talk with the new high school Director of Athletics and Activities, Jeff Pinney. Matt, thank you so much for coming back.
Great to see you again.
It's actually tradition.
It
You've
is.
been coming here every year.
Yes, I
every year since
so.
I started.
That's right.
So the kids might have been on vacation, but I gather there was a lot of work going on in the schools and in the offices. What will the parents and children see that's different when they come back?
You know what? It was an exciting summer, and there's something to be said for that cycle of education and new beginnings. So we had a nice long summer this year, as you talked about. A lot of our efforts were focused on kind of clean up and sparkling up the facility. So I'm actually really excited about that. You know, we got an awful lot done. Hats off to our business manager, Burke LeClaire, and his maintenance staff. But at many of the schools, a couple in particular, Tooten Hill School will go back almost to an entirely new interior facelift, all new flooring, you have new lighting, it's incredible what paint can do when you have the time to really liven things up. Some front office renovations, redoing bathrooms. I mean, things that seem very basic, but when you do them in larger scale, really make a huge difference to the people that work there and the children that learn there. So we're really excited about some of those things.
So was there a major project at Henry James as well?
Not this summer at Henry James. We got the second phase of the renovation approved at referendum, so the design work is going on now, and that'll be occurring next summer. And one of the things we'll be, talking about quite a bit, I have a feeling, in the community this year is a large-scale renovation proposal at Henry James Middle School. Right. So that's going to take a lot of community input, a lot of communication, but we're excited about trying to bring a building that's been really largely untouched since the 50s up to kind of the 21st century learning expectations and get it in line with our beautiful high school facility.
Although the renovation that you did last summer did make the school look a whole lot better.
It sure did.
Yeah.
It did.
So every year you host a teacher convocation when the teachers come back and you name the teacher of the year. What's your message going to be for the teachers this year? Have you thought about it?
Yeah, I have. It's for me, it's a time of, like I talked about, new beginnings and celebrations. And I think one of the things I'm going to talk about is the recognition of it's an interesting time, to get a feel of positivity right now. You turn on the TV, you pick up things you read, inside education or outside education. There's a lot of sniping going on. So my message is a bit of one of gratitude, thinking about the things that we're fortunate enough to have here in Simsbury right now that many communities don't have. I've always built my platform and been consistent on the realization that we have great kids, great staff, and a real supportive community. We can't lose sight of that, and we can't take that for granted. And not that we do, but I believe that convocation is an opportunity to kind of re-energize along those lines. I'm going to talk about some of our district achievements, because sometimes in a district that we do have this kind of drive to thrive. I say we might not take enough time to step back and say, wow, we've done some of these things well. Doesn't mean we don't have areas we can improve, but we really have some nice accolades that I think I'd like to take the time and thank our faculty for. And one of the areas of work we're going to focus on is our efforts on collaboration and what we're calling peer observation and leadership kind of observational rounds, where we were really getting out into classrooms, and I'm coming to watch you teach, and then we're having an opportunity to talk about what we learned and really learn from each other as our primary kind of mode of professional development. It's something I believe deeply in. It's something that occurs all over in other professions. It's harder to capture in education because of I have my classroom, I have my door, and I have my 25 kids. But the feedback from teachers and principals has been really great in that area. So
I can understand. I mean, I think I've mentioned before, I was a teacher for several years, and it's a lonely job. And the best year I had was when I had a full-time volunteer in the classroom and somebody to talk about what went well and what didn't, and to strategize about a kid who's having a problem or whatever.
Right.
Otherwise it's very lonely. And well, it's a little bit different now because you do have more support. In those days, it was you in the
Just
classroom,
you.
and that
That's
was it. Right. So the other thing that we wanted to talk a little bit about was enrollment. You said that you had some pretty surprising news.
Yeah, interesting. We've talked on this show before, and I think one of the main challenges we've worked with in my tenure as superintendent is this consistent decline in enrollment we've seen. And it's posed a lot of different things for us to think about, from removal of all the modular space and the question of, do we really need 5 elementary schools that we've explored. But we've seen a continued trend every year. This year, certainly when we budget, we roll forward our projected enrollment and we staff accordingly. And we were projected to go down 120 students. As we sit here today, I was just looking at the numbers, we're down 14 students. So that's a significant difference we're seeing in some of our schools. More than 100 off from where we thought we would be. So we may have some kind of last-second decisions to make here, quite honestly, on sections, and we're looking at those numbers very carefully. But it will be interesting because, as we know, there's a lot of town development of kind of these luxury apartments that are coming online. They're not all fully ready, but we need to see whether this is kind of the reversal of a trend or this is a blip. And really monitor that closely, because one of the reasons we've been able to continue to have smaller budget increases over the past few years is we've been able to reduce some staff members due to the decline in enrollment. So it's something that we're going to have to really keep an eye on.
So this is not a birth rate thing. This is a people moving into town.
I haven't seen it in the birth rate data that we have. It's more of kind of an in-migration situation. We really always lock into that final number on October 1 when we report our numbers to the state, and there can certainly still be some changes. But, we're significantly over the projected number of total students at Squadron Line, over at Simsbury High School, over at Latimer Lane. So several of the schools have seen a significant bump.
So interesting, high school and a couple of the elementary schools. How about Terriffill?
Terriffill's a little under, which is interesting because that has been very steady for the past several years. And
there's also no new development there.
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
Right. Yeah.
So when you were talking about sort of the positive message, suddenly it occurred to me: do you personally ever feel guilty? You live in Glastonbury, right?
Ellington.
Or Ellington, okay.
Yeah.
And you work in Simsbury, and we have so much here. Do you ever feel guilty? Sometimes I do, that we have so much.
For what we have here? Yeah. Again, the community that you work in lays out and communicates what's important to them. I really believe that. And this is a community, I've always said, that will let you know the things that are going well and the things they value, and also let you know when there's a challenge, what they view about it. So I wouldn't say I feel guilty. I'm fortunate that we have boards that work together. I feel fortunate to lead in a community like this, and I think we need to make strategic decisions. And moving forward, particularly at our flagship school, Simsbury High School, as they are projected to get smaller over the next 5 years, how do we look at these elective programs and these opportunities that we value in theater, culinary, engineering, when numbers get smaller? Those are going to be hard decisions for us to make. Those are going to be community decisions. I've talked to our board about it. I see that as a large challenge moving forward.
So other challenges that you and the board are going to face this year? Are there any sort of the top 3 that you're worrying about?
I think the enrollment is always something that gets a lot of focus because it's in the end directly tied to dollars and interest of kind of the whole community from that sense. I'm excited, and I know it'll be a challenge to think about a $22 million project. We haven't had a project of that magnitude since Simsbury High School. We've built structures in place, or the Board of Finance has, that are very fiscally responsible in terms of 7% of the total budget rolling into capital and structures to kind of manage those things. So, there needs to be some real conversations about what are our priorities, what do we believe in as an education system and a community, and what are we willing to support.
So what was the number that was floating around for Henry James last year? I remember that there was...
I think it was initially about 18, and
18
we started.
million.
Yeah, and we started to have the conversation with the board about the facility in its kind of entirety. And one of the things that can be a challenge about a renovation is you focus on one piece, you work on that, and you go back and you say, why didn't we address this other piece when we did that? So the board really pushed our central office administration, Brian White and Jeff over at the middle school at the time, to say, what are the needs of the facility based on the direction of the programming, and come to us with that design. So that's what we came to them with at the end of the year. They had some questions, meaning my board had questions. We need to come back with some elevations, some different drawings, and some things at our first meeting in September. So it's exciting. It would take our media center out of a classroom, which it is currently, and create a real collaborative space. It would bring our science rooms right now into the modern era, where our competitor districts are. Your Glastonburys and Avons have facilities that reflect those things.
Matt, thank you.
You got it.
And we've run out
Looking
of time.
forward to a great year. I know we'll talk again.
We will talk again. We're going to take a tiny break now and say goodbye to Matt, and we're going to welcome Jeff Pinney. So don't go away. We're back with Jeff Pinney. He was first here 3 years ago when he was hired as the assistant principal at Henry James. Now he has a new job as the high school athletic and activities director. Jeff, it seems to me that this is a perfect job for you. Our viewers may not remember that you were here 3 years ago and we talked, and I learned then that you had extensive sports coaching experience and that you actually taught high school social studies, which fits in very well to activities. Is this your dream job?
I'd have to say that it is. I would not have ever considered it a number of years ago, and as my career has evolved and I've really found out what I'm passionate about when it comes to working with kids and helping students and families learn to be successful, I've really found an opportunity for myself to do it in a way that is going to make myself happy and make the people around me happy, and I don't think that there's a better district or a better opportunity for me that's out there than this one.
Okay, so how did this come about? Did somebody suggest it to you? Did you hear that Dane Street was leaving and then think of it yourself? How did it come about?
I heard that Mr. Street was going to be moving on. I had a very long conversation with my wife, who is very supportive and knows me very well, and said, you talk about teaching and coaching when you retire from being an administrator. She said, is there a way for you to find the best of both worlds? Can you move back into the world of athletics, still be an administrator, and find a path forward that's really going to do right by you and the kids and the community and our family? And I think that really was the conversation that set me in this direction.
So tell me, some of our viewers did see you 3 years ago when I interviewed you, when you switched from being a social studies teacher to administration at Henry James. But maybe you should tell the viewers who weren't there a little bit about your coaching background.
I was a multi-sport coach. I've coached a total of 5 different sports. I coached 3 sports a year for 10 years. A couple different ones. I coached wrestling, track, indoor and outdoor, football, as well as a strength and conditioning coach for all of the different athletic programs in a school for a number of years. I've coached in Massachusetts and Connecticut, won a number of state titles, which has been a fantastic thing to be a part of and to help contribute to, and I'm hoping that we can have some of that same success here in Simsbury.
So the Dane Street, I remember seeing a lot when I was check on sports scores. Sometimes I post on things on Simsbury. He tweeted a lot. He went to all the athletic events and he tweeted scores. Are you doing that? I noticed that somebody was tweeting under the name AD. So are you going to be doing that?
That was a job prerequisite. I had to learn how to tweet. At Simsbury Trojans, if you would like to come on and follow. It's also on the school website. I will be tweeting scores from games. I know, as just a member of the community, I found those tweets extremely helpful when I wanted to to see how a team was doing and be able to follow up with kids the next day. And that's something that I'm going to continue. I think it's important to keep that open line of communication.
Yeah, they were. I found them important too. My husband likes to go to the basketball games, and I'd often go take a look at the score and see, when is he going to be home, or, how are they doing? And yeah, no, it's very, very important. So I noticed on your calendar that you met with parents on something called Fall Sports Kickoff last night. Is that something that's been going on for a time that you just took over?
It has. It's an informational evening. It's making sure that parents are aware and knowledgeable of the opportunities they have to communicate with coaches, what the coaches' expectations are, how they can reach myself, the athletic trainer, and where some of the knowledge is that's out there through the CIAC and the NCAA, not just about athletics at Simsbury High School, but about the state of Connecticut, and then athletics beyond high school. It's important to start to educate parents now so that they're prepared and their children are prepared should they choose to go on and continue to participate after Simsbury High School.
So what were some of the parents' concerns last night? Did they ask questions, and what were the things that they were thinking about?
They were most excited about meeting with the individual team coaches. They did not have questions for me. Most of the questions for me were more congratulations. I've known a lot of the parents for the last several years, my time at Henry James, and many of them were happy to see me there in this role. And I was able to address a number of things with them and with the coaches, and they want to know mostly the logistics. When's practice? What time do I pick my child up? How do I sign up? Who do I make the check out to, and things like that.
So I know you mentioned before we went on the air that there's a scrimmage right after we're finished here at the high school, and you're going there, which reminded me, first of all, what is the scrimmage? And second of all, we need to talk about a big major change at in the turf.
So the first scrimmage on the turf is taking place at 4 o'clock today. It is Simsbury High School's football team, all three levels, freshman, JV, and varsity, scrimmaging against Northwest Catholic and Gilbert. It's an opportunity for all three of the teams to use the field for the first time. We had our first practice on the field last night, and that was football as well. The rest of the sports start tomorrow, with the exception of crew, who's also been going for the last 2 weeks, and they will all be on the turf tomorrow. But it's an exciting opportunity to come out and see the new field and see the way that it really shows some of the Simsbury pride that I'm hoping to bring to the high school facility itself, and that the members of the community should be very proud of.
So we're taping this on the 24th, and so it's going to air afterwards. So I just want our viewers to realize that. So what was done to the field?
They actually replaced the entire turf surface, and they, through the process, removed what was there, the old infill that was there, the old turf that was there. The foundation was still usable, the goalpost footings were still usable, and they essentially laid a new turf inside of the track that was existing.
One of the things that we here at SCTV are hoping is that with your presence there, that we can get more kids involved in actually broadcasting sports, and so I'm putting in a plug for us. And I've been very puzzled that there haven't been, especially in this town where has a good relationship with ESPN and a lot of people who work there, but there haven't been more students who have been interested in learning about doing play-by-play. So what do you think?
I think we should build a connection to the classroom, and I think that there are broadcasting classes that are taught at the high school, and I think it's using athletics as an avenue for students to connect curriculum to what's going on outside. I think it's a great experience for athletics. I think it's a great opportunity for the community to be able to follow along, and I think it's a great experience for students to be connected to the school outside of the school day. I would love to see that connection fostered through some of the curriculum that we're currently offering, and if we need to expand that curriculum, then that's all the better.
I'd love to see some more young girls get involved too, and because there's a lot of room for girls to do a lot of sports. So we've been talking mostly about sports, but your job title is Director of Athletics and Activities now. So let's talk a little bit about activities and what plans are and what's happening there and how those work and how many there are. Just give me the rundown.
I'm very excited about that opportunity. It's not the same in every district. for me, the last several years at Henry James, I ran the after-school activities. So to be able to continue that at Simsbury High School is a great avenue for me. And the goal of all of it, the goal of athletics, the goal of the clubs and activities, is to get kids to make connections with the school. And I really see myself helping to contribute to the environment, to the character building of students, and to help them make those connections and find what they're passionate about. And we have such a diverse group of kids that have diverse interests, and I want to make sure that they all have an opportunity to connect with those interests and discover what they're passionate about at Simsbury High School.
So is there a day when they get to go into the gym and talk to all the clubs, or how does that work?
There is. There's a clubs and activity day, which actually will be taking place this Friday, so I don't believe that this will air before that.
Right.
But it's for kids by kids. We do not have advisors in the gym space, and we use the blue gym, and the clubs and activities come and they set up tables, and they get to talk to kids. And it's really about, what are you really going to experience, what do you want to experience, and what are the things that we currently offer. One of the best things about my role is, if somebody wants to do something that we don't offer, all they have to do is come talk to me, and we'll figure out a way to make that happen, because as time passes, people's interests change, and we want to make sure that the things we're providing them for opportunity are relevant to what they want to learn.
So now, you taught social studies when you were a teacher. So I'm not sure what goes on at the high school. This is a presidential election. Mm-hmm. Are there students who are involved in social studies and current mm-hmm. events? Or I really don't know.
There's quite a bit. There are some student-led political organizations at the high school. They do not get directly involved with the election, but I can tell you, as a social studies teacher, it's one of the best years to be teaching, because there's a connection for kids. There's a connection to what they see and learn in the classroom and what's really going on in the real world, and they get to see firsthand how our government works. They get to see how elections are held, and they get to really dig into the background and the beliefs of the political candidates, and we really get to use the election as an opportunity to teach children, this is what it means to be a part of a democracy and how you participate, and this is what your role and your responsibilities are in order to do so responsibly.
So you are taking over a program from Dane Street, who was here for 3 years, who I think was very active, and so do you have any plans on your own? Are you just continuing what he did, or do you have a different philosophy, or I'm not sure whether I'm asking a rude question.
No. I think Mr. Street did a fantastic job of really streamlining some of the processes and creating a vision for Simsbury High School. And that started this summer with the turf project. That was something that he worked very hard on. I have plans for the high school as well. And what I'd like to really see is high school facilities, just like the classrooms, and we try to give our students the best possible opportunity to experience first-rate education. We want to do the same thing with athletics and with the clubs and activities. The facilities at Simsbury High School are a bit dated, the new turf and the track being an exception, but there are some things that I would really like to focus on updating and improving, specifically to improve the connection with the community. I'd like the members of the community to feel safe and comfortable, and to be able to come out to a lot more of the athletic events, and to be able to connect through SCTV into their homes and let them watch some of those events. But I'd really like to see a lot more community support come out to Simsbury High School and make that a great experience for them, and that's really the vision I'd like to push forward.
All right, so I'm going to put in a plug for something that my husband's been complaining about. He was a high school athlete in New Haven, basketball, played football, and so he loves to go to the games. But the football games, he does not particularly love to sit on the Simsbury side, because the students they're having fun. Mm-hmm. They're running around. He likes to concentrate on the game, so he goes to the visitor side, but everybody stands up and he can't see. So his complaint has been about, they need some place where people can sit and actually see the game above where the people are standing. So
that's one of the important things we need to address, is we need to address spectator seating, restrooms, things like that. We need to make sure that it's accessible to everyone, and that really is a great experience for them to come out there. And we want to make sure that people are comfortable and that they want to be there and that they have the opportunity to really enjoy it. As an athlete purist at times myself, when I'm watching and I really just want to watch the game, I can respect that, and I appreciate where he's coming from.
And I mean, he's now 82 years old. He's in very good health, but he just has difficulty in the It's hard to go to the Simsbury side and see anything in any case. So he's been wanting to make that observation for a very long time. So what else are you thinking about?
I really think it's important that we maximize the space that we have. to be honest, a lot of our programming has to take place off site at Simsbury High School. We have the largest athletic program in the state of Connecticut and the second largest in New England, and we have functionally we have 4 fields that we can use at the high school. 2 are multi-sport. We kind of put another field hockey field in between the softball and baseball fields, but the majority of our students that participate in athletics have to do so off-site because the facility at the high school is not adequate to sustain the programming that we have, and we offer great programming. I'd really like to figure out how to maximize that space and get some input and some ideas on how we can keep kids on campus, because if the idea is to help them be connected to Simsbury High School and extend the school day, I'd like it to be really on campus so that we can make sure that we're supporting kids the right way and that parents know this is where my child is, this is where I need to drop them off, this is where I need to pick them up. It really would make things, I think, easier for families, and I think at the end of the day, we're all here to support the families in the community.
So we're almost out of time, but I just want to ask one question. Are you in charge of all the coaches?
I am. That's part of the role of athletic directors, is I evaluate not just head coaches, but assistant coaches and volunteer coaches as well. Anybody who is officially working with children has to be evaluated by the athletic director, and it's important that that happens to make sure that our kids are having a good experience.
Yeah, that's very important. It's sort of supervising the coaches and the assistant coaches who are not all full-time teachers.
Correct.
Right. Thank you, Jeff. We've run out of time. I'd like to thank everyone here at SCTV behind the scenes for their help in getting the show on the air. Thanks especially to my guests, Jeff Pinney and Matt Curtis, who has left us. And thank you, of course, for joining us. A reminder, SCTV volunteers are on hand to make sure that all Board of Education meetings on the 2nd and the 4th Tuesdays of the month are live and that they are recorded for future airing on Xfinity Channel 95 and Frontier 99. If you'd like to volunteer, just get in touch with us. Finally, I wanted to remind you that the best way to keep up with what's on SCTV is to like us on Facebook or check out our website at simsburytv.org. If you missed any part of this show, you can find it anytime online. I'm Dominique Avery. See you next time for Simsbury School News. Since 1984, SCTV has been the place to turn in Simsbury to watch local government in action. But we're more than local government and school meetings. SCTV is the only place where you can check out all the candidates in local elections. We have high school sports and exercise classes. Other shows keep you up on health, finance, poetry, music, and Simsbury hot topics. Now we need your help. Simsbury Community TV is embarking on a major capital fundraising campaign to bring SCTV into the 21st century. We've received a generous grant from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, but now we must match it. We want everyone to watch us on TV or on our website, but even if you never do, please help so that we can continue to keep your government open and you informed. Someday, when there's a crisis, you will want SCTV to be there.
Hi, my name is Greta Laurel, Vice President of Personal Insurance Sales with Summit First Insurance. I hope you'll join me in supporting SCTV. Since 1984, your connection to your town, your schools, and your government.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.